Well, if you wanted to know, welcome to this episode of The Industrial Revolution.
The catalyst of the Industrial Revolution was technology, and the most important invention to the development of factories was the steam engine by James Watt. His engine and other inventions enabled the United Kingdom to become the world's dominant industrial power during the 19th century. The first industries impacted by the Industrial Revolution were iron, transportation, textiles, chemicals, and food processing. The revolution later spread to Europe and North America, and in the second half of the 20th century, East Asia. Another famous inventor was Henry Ford, who initiated Ford's production, which is a form of mass production where a person is assigned a specific task that he has to repeatedly perform. Now, factories use post-Fordist production, which is more flexible. People work in teams to solve problems in skilled labor. Historically, people relied primarily on animate power, which was supplemented by biomass fuel, such as wood, plant material, and animal waste. The three main types of fossil fuels are coal, petroleum, and natural gas. Fossil fuels are an energy source formed from the residue of plants and animals buried millions of years ago. It's been centuries since the Industrial Revolution, and fossil fuels are running out. Consequently, oil and petroleum exporting countries, also known as OPEC, have all power and judgment over gas prices, so you better not mess with Saudi or Kuwait, which explains the Gulf Wars. Changing gas supplies also brought in new trends. For the first time in 2006, LDCs accounted for more energy usage than MDCs. There are two types of reserves. They are proven and potential. Proven reserves is the supply of energy remaining deposits that have been discovered. Potential reserves are the supply deposits that are undiscovered but thought to exist. On the other hand, there are some pretty unconventional resources. For example, in Canada, oil sands have helped Canada with an economic boom, while hydraulic fracturing, or called fracking, is now being used in the US. Another supranational organization is the World Oil Trade, which is basically what the name says, trading oil. The alternatives have pros and cons. Nuclear power gets a lot of energy, but the fission and fusion of the nuclear waste can kill the population of a whole city. Other alternatives are geothermal energy, wind power, biomass fuel, hydroelectric power, passive solar energy, and active solar energy. Most of these alternatives are renewable resources, which aren't used a lot as some are pretty hard to extract. They are fragile and it is expensive to build plants. Plus, it is bad for the environment.
Let's go back to the future, not the movie.
There are two factors that dictate real industry. One is situational factors, and the other is site factors. Let's go over situational factors, which is related to relativity. Weber's least cost theory says money dictates all. Industries look at their transportation cost when locating their factories. Bulk reducing industry is when the raw material is heavier than the finished product. Therefore, the product would be closer to the raw material than the market. And bulk gaining industry is exact opposite, and they locate near the market. One example of bulk losing industry would be copper, and a bulk gaining industry would be a car. As MDCs and LDCs separate, a new international division of labor is formed. Cheap, low-skilled jobs in labor are put in LDCs. People in LDCs are happy with cheap, low-skilled labor and money, but the thing for transnational corporations, which they like, is that these people can speak English. When companies like Foxconn do it, it is called outsourcing because they give responsibilities to independent suppliers. This can also become vertical integration. Quick delivery. Let's go talk about transportation. For transporting, for example, a cow to a meat processing factory, suppliers don't drive or sail or fly the whole way. They use multiple transportation modes. The location where the change of transportation modes occur is called a break of bulk point. One big thing that occurs at break of bulk points isn't the breaking of a product, obviously, but it is instead containerization, where just about everything is put in boxes. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Amazon we don't know about or care about. Just like the mailman, industry has just-in-time delivery. which is the shipment of parts and materials to arrive at a factory before they are needed. There are three kinds of disruption that can hurt just-in-time delivery: national hazards, traffic, and worst of all, industry's biggest enemy, labor unrest. Speaking of labor unrest, let's go talk about the South, your vernacular region in the United States. Many companies have moved to the South in the United States. It's not because of the good weather, it is not mainly because of the good site factors, but because of the laws. For decades, companies have fallen due to strikes and labor unrest. In the South, they have right to work laws, which require companies to have an open shop, which means your workers don't have to join a union to get the job. This leads to a lesser chance of having a strike. Now let's talk about site factors. There's labor, capital, and land. Labor must be cheap, but it could also be a labor-intensive industry. Capital is like FDI that helps companies, grow. Just like Shark Tank, except in Shark Tank, most of the entrepreneurs fail. Let's go
back to the negative part of Industrial Revolution. Pollution, which adds more waste to the environment than the resources can handle.
Let's first talk about air pollution. When factories release CO2 emissions or leak chlorofluorocarbons or make fridges, they hurt the ozone layer through the process called the greenhouse effect. Since this is an AP Human Geography video, we're not going to go into details of the greenhouse effect. That was global scale air pollution. Let's talk about local pollution. When urban areas are polluted, it is mainly due to factories, motor vehicles, and pollutants like carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, particulates, which can lead to photochemical smog and problems to our health. There are two types of consumptive water usage. The first one is consumptive water usage, which is when the water is not returned to the body of water. The second is non-consumptive water usage. Air pollution can enter the water two ways: from a specific point called point source pollution, and from everywhere, non-point source pollution. The third type of pollution is solid waste pollution, which can be highlighted by the U.S. sanitary landfill, which hides garbage but doesn't get rid of it. So please, people, recycle, renew, and reuse.